You can listen to the Canadian Gothic early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
Members of Cape Breton Search and Rescue spent the day combing through a wooded area near Cosset Heights Drive in Sydney, desperately searching for 59-year-old Debbie Ann Hutchinson, who's been reported missing.
Now to some suspicion and mystery surrounding the whereabouts of a Cape Breton woman who's been reported missing by her family. Her car has been found burned out in a wooded area in Sydney, but there is no sign of her.
You are listening to Canadian Gothic.
In April of 2017, something happened to 59-year-old Debbie Ann Hutchinson. She was last seen over the Easter weekend, making a series of seemingly inconsequential appearances around Sydney, Nova Scotia. She was grabbing groceries, going through a fast food drive-thru, but then nothing. It wasn't entirely unusual for Deb to go off-grid for a few days here and there. She was a big drinker, and with that comes a sort of unpredictability when it comes to keeping a schedule. But after an extended period of no contact, family thought it necessary to check on her house. The scene inside, most notably the presence and state of her dog Molly, who Deb was rarely further than an arm's reach away from, led to a call to the local police and the filing of a missing persons report. And almost immediately, things went from concern to desperation. In the days prior to Deb being reported missing, police received a report of a burnt vehicle on an isolated road not too far from her home. The vehicle was so badly burned it was hard to identify beyond a make and model, but that's all they needed to make this connection. It was Deb's car, and she was nowhere to be found. And that's about where we are 9 years later. But there's so much more to this story than a missing woman and her burned car. This is a story about family, about trauma, and about the impossible position of wanting answers for your mother's murder while also living with the painful truth of what your relationship with that mother really was. Tonight, in this episode of the Canadian Gothic, our guest is Debbie's estranged daughter, Colette Deveaux. And our topic is the disappearance and assumed homicide of her mother, Debbie Ann Hutchinson.
Information released by Cape Breton Regional Police today is what many around here have suspected, that Debbie Ann Hutchinson's disappearance was a homicide.
Let's start with you, Collette. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell me a bit about who you are and a bit about your life present day.
I'm a musician. I also am a credit union employee. I'm currently dog sitting my friend's pup who's throwing shit around me right now.
One thing I do know about you, other than the fact that you're a well-known musician around Cape Breton, is that you have a connection to a well-known crime, missing persons case, a homicide in Cape Breton. Your mother is Deb Hutchinson, who was initially reported missing, years later ruled a homicide by the local police. Why don't you tell me about just a bit about how the murder of your mother affected you and changed you over the last now 9 years?
That's the dog. I apologize. It's been hell. It's hard to talk about because we didn't have a great relationship and we're no contact for a while, but it is in the back of my mind all the time. I shouldn't say the back, is in the forefront of my mind all the time. Like, if I'm pulling into Walmart and I see it's really busy, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be, probably somebody in there knows what happened. Mm-hmm. Probably someone in there did it.
And where you live in Cape Breton in the Sydney area, it's not a huge community. So when something like this happens, it's not unrealistic to think, that you've rubbed elbows or passed by.
I must have. Like, I worked in the service industry. I served for years. Like, I know that I've come across them and I just don't know who it is. It's insane.
Well, let's start at the beginning. I'd like to know a bit about your childhood and about your upbringing. I know it's yourself and your brother. I don't know if you have any other siblings, but why don't you tell me a bit about your family and your childhood?
So it's just me, my brother, my dad, and my mom. In childhood, I grew up on Lynch Drive in Sydney, just kind of on the Sydney River border there. My mom wasn't well. Like, the general theory is that she kind of changed after having my brother and never really came back. Like, the postpartum kind of took her over, and My childhood was abusive and brutal.
And from talking to you prior to this, I know from the very early days of your childhood, your mom suffered with alcoholism, and a lot of the abuse and rage and violence was directed towards you, as I
Yeah.
understand it.
She lost custody of me when I was 13. Like, we hadn't had much contact since then. I think I've probably only spent time with her 4 times since I was 13 years old, and I'm 37 on Mother's Day,
Wow.
luckily.
Okay. Well, it's coming. Now, let's talk about the breakdown of your family, because again, you were, as you just said there, with your mom, and she was a big part of your life until around age 13. I know your connection to her, like, or your relationship with her became estranged, as well as the breakdown of her marriage between your mom and dad, all happened kind of within the same couple of years, or within the span of a couple of
Yeah.
years. Why don't you talk to me about the breakdown of your family? Like, how did that happen, and when and what happened?
It was October, I think 2002 or 1. I can't really remember. Um, I was reading a book, doing homework, and mom came down the stairs and was making herself a instant coffee. She loved it. She drank it all hours of the day. And she started stomping around. And I was like, that's mature. And she went insane and packed a bag and left. And she tried to come back a few days later. But my dad had changed the locks because she was leaving all the time. Like, this was a normal thing. She constantly packed a bag and left. And she came back on Halloween night. My dad had my brother out trick or treating, and I'm on the cordless phone with dad. And he's like, go to the basement, don't let her in. And I went to the basement, and she went around the side of the house where she knew the basement window was and kicked it in. And that was the breaking point.
They split after that, and is it at that point that your contact with her ends? Like, I do know you've maintained for a period after that, you did maintain some kind of relationship with her.
No, we were basically no contact. Like, it was deemed that she was unfit to care for me. She uh beat me a lot more than my brother, but she my brother shared custody with both my parents shared custody of my brother for like 2 or 3 years, and then that ended because she wasn't well. And I've seen her, like, there was like a period of time where my dad and I were in a fight, and I moved in with her when I was 17, and that lasted about a week. And then I tried to maintain contact with her via like a neighbor that we had on Lynch Drive, who my mom struggled to maintain relationships. Like, she didn't talk to a lot of her family, even her twin at the time. Like, she had a hard time maintaining relationships. But the neighbors always kind of looked after her, and they stayed in touch. And I would sort of keep tabs on her through them. And I reached out a few times to, try to have some kind of relationship, but I didn't want to go alone. And her answer was always, you'll see me alone and you won't see me at all.
Hmm.
So,
Wow. So how long did this go on? Like, I can't even imagine what it would be like to be like estranged from a parent like that. But how long did it go on that there was, semi steps being made towards, meeting, but then it falling apart? Like, was that something that happened often, or are you kind of just describing a specific time?
I'm describing a specific time. Mom would call, like, I never got a card in the mail. I never, like, she'd call on birthdays or holidays and leave like really brutal messages. And my dad would always make me listen to them, and they'd always be like, your father's probably not going to let you listen to this. But yeah, there was no real effort on her part to reconcile, and I did try.
I understand. Um, it, You mentioned after the breakdown of the marriage, your brother was with her for a while. Did he have the same kind of issue, like relationship, or was it more you and your mom that just didn't mix for whatever reason?
She hit me more than him, and I don't think she ever got violent with him. Like I know there were probably a few times that she did, but it it was more like psychological. Like she had I feel bad. I don't want to speak for him, but
Mm,
she
mm.
was just she was very unwell.
Yeah, in this unwell, like you've mentioned alcoholism and abuse, but my understanding is that there was also mixed in with it, like paranoia and like kind of delusional thoughts. Can you talk a bit
So
about that
much.
side of it?
Yeah, like she thought that the cops were always at her house when we were kids. Like she thought people were going through her garbage. She always thought someone was after her, and it's crazy because now look what happened. I
Mhm.
don't know if it's self-fulfilling prophecy or what, but or if it's real, but she thought my dad had a contract with like the local car salesman place to drive any car he wanted to stalk her. And like I'm telling you, he did not like it was really bad. It was he wouldn't even drive up her street when they were sharing custody.
Yeah, but I guess it just kind of speaks to like possibly her paranoia or delusions, because
Yeah.
that theory or that idea, if she had that in her head, that would allow her to think, everyone is my ex-husband and they're and he's following me like in all of these
Yeah, and
cars.
before that, like I remember the cops being at her house because she thought people were going through her garbage at night. Like she thought she just had such grand delusions, and I didn't really know what was going on. There was just always a cop in the house every couple months. One of my earliest memories of her is writing grievances to Canada Post by candlelight. Like it was always a fight. She was always involved
Yeah,
in something.
but you as a kid, that's your life, so it was normalized. But I guess now, as a woman looking back at it, you're realizing how like complicated and toxic, this situation was back then.
Yeah, and unfortunate because she could have gotten help if she was born. Like the only difference between my mother and I right now is that I struggle with alcohol. I struggle with my mental health. I'm just able to talk about it. I'm able to get help. Like it's
Mhm.
we talk about it now. We didn't talk about it then.
Mhm. That's true. Yeah, that's a very good point, especially in small town Cape Breton. I've grown up in
Yes,
the same
exactly in the
area.
90s.
Yeah, and then in
Yeah.
the 90s when, heavy drinking was so normalized in my childhood.
It's so normalized here. It's
Yeah.
unfair.
Mhm.
I truly do think that my mother was like abused when she was younger and had some severe trauma because I've heard that she could put a quart, she could drink a quart and still be on her feet when she was 13. And that's not normal. That's not something that you can do if you don't have like severe trauma. You're not drinking like that at that age. Um, there was no mental health help. We didn't talk about addiction. We didn't talk about trauma, abuse, women's health, or mental health back when my mom needed all of those things to be addressed.
Mhm. This thing with your dad, like this will kind of become important. So let's make a point to talk this out. But your mom and your dad broke up ages before her disappearance. Like we're talking like a breakup, like I guess would have been like 10 or 15 years before she went missing.
Oh my God, 20 years. Easy.
Or
Over 20,
okay.
14.
So getting back to, how this is all turning out. So you're estranged from your mom. There's the breakup of the marriage. What was your mom's life like in the time prior to her disappearance? Like I know where she was living. She actually lived just a stone's throw away from the home I grew up in. She was just 2 streets away from me in the Ashby area of Sydney, in a residential area that would be probably like middle class. But what was the story? Like, what was she doing? And tell me what you know about her life prior to her disappearance.
Like, I'm not entirely sure. I've called some family to chat, and it doesn't seem like they were in extremely close contact. Uh,
Mhm.
know that she was supposed to go to an Easter dinner the weekend that she went missing and didn't show up. And that wasn't weird because mom often didn't show up to things. She was cagey. But it was weird for her not to call and say, like, sorry, I didn't come.
In this home, like I understand it was just her and her dog living in the house. I would have seen this as like kind of like it wasn't like this tiny little spot. It was like a family home. Did she own the house or was she renting? Like what was the story with that?
She was renting the house from her friend Pat, who basically, I think, kind of like funded her life. Um, she's a wealthier woman.
So it was like a landlord that was a friend and was probably doing some favors for your mom.
Yeah, they've been friends since they were 4. They grew up next door to each other.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, like there's pictures of me and her kids in the bathtub together.
Wow. We're getting kind of the point of the timeline here where her disappearance occurs. But let me ask before we get there, do you recall the last time you spoke to your mom or your last time you saw her?
Yeah, it was 2015, and I was working for the Cape Breton Music Industry Cooperative. And they were basically doing this like busking thing for tourism season to bring business to local businesses. So they'd have musicians stationed outside of businesses around town. And she drove by, and I didn't know what the car was. And she drove by a second time. And then she drove by a third time and she stopped. And she came out and put $20 in my case and we chatted. And um, I was a mess after that.
So I don't know if everyone will know what busking is, but basically it's like you with your guitar outside of a business with your guitar case open, just playing to whoever walks by and people throw change in, but your mom just appears there.
Yeah, she was getting there was a Greek restaurant across the street. She loved Greek food. She approached and was like, I heard the voice, and I said, what a voice. And then I was like, that's my daughter. And came over, and yeah, that's the last time I saw her.
Wow. And how long would that have been? Like prior to that you would have, since you would have seen her, like, I'm sure this was shocking when she approaches, but how long had it been before that you've seen her?
8 years.
So we just talked through, your upbringing and your relationship with your mom and the eventual breakdown of your relationship with your mom and her marriage. But let's now get to when things go wrong. So tell me, when is it and how do you realize or learn that something's going on and, and your mom is missing? Talk me through that.
So I was living in Montreal. I was living in Montreal at the time, and I was home for a show at Easter that I was playing, and I was supposed to tour back through PEI in New Brunswick and a bit of Quebec with another musician that I have worked with in the past. And I was home for a bit, and I was at the bar. I was at Governor's having a pint with a pal. And one of my childhood friends walked in. And when I was like in my 20s, I could not keep a phone. Like, could not. Everybody that knows me knows I break phones on the regular. Like, it's a curse that I've broken, thankfully. Knock on wood.
Yeah, it's an expensive curse.
It is. But I didn't have a phone at the time. And my childhood best friend walked in and was like, your cousin David is looking for you. I think you have to go home. And I was like, what do you mean? What did he say? And she's like, Collette, you have to go home. And when I got home, my dad and his girlfriend let me know what was up. And that's when the news came out. Essentially, I was home for like 2 weeks. I never went back, but
Wow. Because coming home from Montreal, given your childhood and everything you've went through, I'm sure that's heavy as it is coming home with, with that on your shoulders and on your mind. Then to have this happen must have been so heavy. But what was known at the time? Like you were told she's missing, but like how bad was it? Because like as I understand your mom, it wouldn't have been completely uncommon for her to not show up or not be in touch. But
no,
how
exactly.
bad was it?
Uh, we didn't know how bad. I honestly thought Because I'd known that she'd gone to detox she'd gone to detox a few times to sober up from alcohol, but outside of like Sydney, which I can completely understand. I've been in the mental health care system myself. It's, everybody there. So I truly thought that she got pulled over for drinking and driving because that was uh, what she did all the time. And yeah, I didn't think it was that bad. I thought it was going to be, and everyone I talked to said, like, Colette, it's Cape Breton, I wouldn't give it, you'll know in like 3 days, dude. And we're 9 years later.
Members of Cape Breton Search and Rescue spent the day combing through a wooded area near Cosset Heights Drive in Sydney, desperately searching for 59-year-old Debbie Ann Hutchinson, who's been reported missing.
Since the time of the report, police conducted normal investigative procedures that we do for missing person, exhausting all options to this point in terms of any video surveillance and bank records and phone records and those sorts of things.
Hutchinson was last seen on Good Friday. 10 days later, she was reported missing to police by family. According to sources, she was diagnosed recently with cancer. The family says it's not like Hutchinson to be away for this length of time. Although not appearing on camera, they say they are worried and hope she is found safe. Hutchinson is 5 feet tall, about 95 pounds, with brown eyes and graying hair.
So at the time, it felt like, this is awful, something's going on, but you weren't thinking, this is going to change my life.
I certainly didn't think it was a homicide. I certainly didn't think, we didn't know about the car yet, but.
Yeah, and that's an interesting part of this. So it's on April 24th that she's reported missing. Actually, why don't we talk a little bit about that? Is who actually reports her missing? And tell me the story of how they realized she wasn't.
So my cousin Amy is the one who reported her missing, but my uncle Johnny, who's passed, her father, Amy's father, he was supposed to take her to an appointment and she didn't reach out. Like there was an appointment on a Wednesday, if I remember correctly. And she, it wasn't weird for her to ghost. Like it just wasn't weird for her to not show up. But then nobody had heard from her for a bit and people were starting to get worried. And Amy works in Sydney and knew where mom lived. They weren't close, but she's like, I'm gonna drive by Debbie's and see like what's going on. And she noticed that there was like a ton of mail piled up and she could hear the dog inside, and she called her father and was like, should I report this? Like, do you want me to call the cops? I think something's really wrong. And he said yes, and they made that report that night.
Okay. So that's, your mother's brother, John, was concerned because she wasn't around for this appointment and whatnot.
But it wasn't weird until, like, it was just starting to get weird because, like I said, like, my mom was cagey. She didn't, like, it wasn't weird for her to not show up places.
But it was weird for her to let the mail pile up and to leave her dog inside the house, flipping out.
Yes. Yeah.
And here's where things get really odd. And I guess from the eyes of an investigator, when it's clear that there's a problem, is that, so it's on April 24th that your mom is actually reported missing. But on April 16th, over a week earlier, a discovery of a burning car in the Cosset Heights area will eventually become connected. So for people unfamiliar, Cosset Heights was a planned industrial park that's just a couple minutes walk from where I grew up and where your mom lived at the time. And it was a planned industrial park that never took off. In the end, it ended up being just a couple roads cleared and paved into the woods. An area where lots of antisocial things happened. People would go up there to
burn their cars for insurance.
Burn their cars for insurance, or kids out there running, drinking. Yeah, all sorts of stuff went on out there. But on Sunday, April 16th, so again, over a week before your mom went missing, two people riding on an ATV happened upon a not burnt, but an actually burning car. Can you tell me a bit about what you know about these people finding the burning car?
I don't know that much about it, to be honest. They've been looked into. Um, I don't really know what to say about the burning car. They found it. They thought it was going to
Yeah.
explode,
Mhm.
and it was like 11 a.m.
It was, yeah, it was just
It
about
was
after 10:30 a.m. that they phoned the police, but they were initially worried that someone could be in the vehicle or that the vehicle could explode. So this thing, it's like an active fire with thick black smoke billowing out of it. But the twist in all this is that the vehicle was so badly damaged that the car's found the 16th, the 24th she's reported missing, and then it's after that.
that they put it together. Yeah.
It's been more than a week since Nicholas Bedell and Sarah McKinnon came across a vehicle on fire here while out for a ride on their ATV.
It was just billowing black smoke, and we stopped there because we didn't know if the car was going to actually explode or anything like that. But then again, we had to check if there was anyone in it. So
Was there anybody in it?
No.
You never seen anybody?
No, not a soul.
At the time, they didn't know who the car belonged to, but now they do. 59-year-old Debbie Hutchinson was last seen April 14th and reported missing by family April 24th.
I'm honestly worried for her because it's just a strange happening. How we found it at 10:30 and then she's been gone for so long. I don't understand that. I don't understand how she's been gone the 14th. We found that car on the 16th and nothing's been said until now.
Hutchinson lived in this home behind me. Neighbors here in this area say they are puzzled about her disappearance.
Debbie had animals, a cat and a dog, and I just can't understand her ever going and leaving them because she loved them dearly, and every place she went, the little dog was with her.
Investigators were at her home today looking for anything that might point them in the direction of Hutchinson's whereabouts. Police say there's nothing specific to indicate foul play, but say the circumstances surrounding her disappearance are suspicious. Back where Hutchinson's car was found, searchers continue to comb the wooded area.
So, of course, the timeline of all this is becoming obvious. Is whatever happens to your mom happened like Saturday, the 15th of April, or the morning of Sunday, the 16th of April.
Yeah.
Which allows the mail to pile up and all the stuff leading up to the 24th. So let's talk through what's known about her movements before the car was found, because clearly, that's what this leads up to. In the media, it seems like what's come out really is her last known appearance was like at a fast food joint or something. Can you talk anything? Can you talk at all about the lead up to her, her car being found?
I mean, I was tasked with cleaning out our house. She had just gotten groceries and she was supposed to go to an Easter dinner. And there were like Easter baskets she was making for her friends' kids. And there was a case of beer on the floor with one beer taken out of it. And just bags of groceries not put away. She did go to Sobeys. She did go through a drive-through. That's all I really know.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's intentionally that way, right? Am I mistaken in saying that some of her last known movements are kind of kept as a closely guarded secret by investigators? Or can you talk about that?
Yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment of that.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. But regardless of all of this, is when looking at your mom's last known movements, really that's about it. She's seen at a drive-through on Saturday night, the night before the car is found. She got groceries that day. And we know that as well because, as you said in your explanation there, it was you who actually cleared out her house, which surprises me because, again, you were so distant from her at the time of her disappearance. How does it end up falling on you to empty out the apartment or her house?
I got a letter from a lawyer through her landlord. So her landlord found a lawyer here and had the letter sent to my dad's house, where I was at the time, because I was, at the time, not sure if I was going back to Montreal or not. And she called me that day and basically told me it had to be cleaned out by July. And that's what happened.
Okay. So the owner of the home, your mom's childhood friend, needed the place cleared out and
was ready to sell it like ASAP.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me about that. Cause like, you would have been doing this clear out of the place at the same time she's missing and the search is still happening and her story's in the news? I imagine that was
It
so
was
difficult
hell
that you
on
probably
earth.
don't
It
even
was
remember it.
like,
Yeah.
I still have dreams about the smell. Like sometimes I catch the smell or I think of the smell and I have PTSD from it. It's like the dog was left in the house for, I want to say, at least 9 days. So the excrement, and like she had a spare room that was just full of garbage. It was like packed to the ceiling with 15, like the old 15 packs, and every beer was inserted into them perfectly, and they were stacked to the ceiling, and there was old like oil and frying pans, and that's the room that the dog locked itself in, Molly. She was blind, so we don't know if somebody put her in that room or if she shut it by herself, because that's entirely possible as well. But yeah, it was brutal, and there were massive fights about who was going to get what, and it was just out of control.
Yeah. But as far as actually cleaning it out, like, because I assume that the investigators would have gone through the home, didn't find any evidence of, foul play or anything in the house, and then turned it over. But because of that, when you went in to clean it out, it was probably very much like the way she left it.
It
Can you
was, yeah.
tell me about it?
Groceries on the floor, still in the bags. Like I said, the spare room frigged up.
Mhm.
Just cigarette butts, ashtrays everywhere, overflowing.
Yeah. But did it have the appearance that, she was just in the middle of her life when whatever happened or
Yes.
whatever led to her?
She was a tiny woman. I don't, as far as I know, they didn't find any blood in the house or any sign of like nothing was broken, nothing was disturbed. It just looked like she came home with her groceries, had one beer, and then disappeared. It makes no sense.
Heading up into the sky with hopes of finding answers, a Department of Natural Resources helicopter scoured this wooded area of Sydney today, looking for a woman who has been missing for roughly 2 weeks now.
Well, I don't know about bringing it to a conclusion, but we can clear this area here and we can expand the area. Exhausting manpower and having the helicopter up there with no foliage on the trees right now, we can see down to the ground pretty good.
59-year-old Debbie Hutchinson of Sydney hasn't been seen since the Easter weekend. A ground search began Wednesday after her burned-out vehicle was found on this isolated road not far from her home. But despite ideal search conditions, still no sign of the missing woman.
If whatever happened didn't happen in the house, you had the fire, the car burned out in Collette Heights. There was an extensive search in the forest around there, both with ground searchers and helicopters and everything else. They didn't find anything, as far as I know, surrounding the car.
No, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
What do you make of that? Because again, initially, this wasn't from the beginning, at least publicly, not being investigated as a homicide. It was a missing person. But when you think of this,
yeah, they refused to rule. They said no foul play suspected from the very beginning. The original cops were brutal. Like, the main guy is retired now, and the new cops took over the case, and that's when it was ruled a homicide. And I really like the cops that we're dealing with now, but the first people on the case were unbelievably insensitive and incompetent, as far as I'm concerned.
Because it wasn't, this all happened in 2017. It's not until 2023 that it was ruled a homicide.
Information released by Cape Breton Regional Police today is what many around here have suspected, that Debbie Ann Hutchinson's disappearance was a homicide. Her 2005 white Kia Magentis is believed to have been driving around Upper Prince Street, Reeves Street, or Collette Heights Drive before it was set on fire in a wooded area in Collette Heights. Family reported Hutchinson missing to police on April 24, 2017, after not being able to reach her for several days. She was last seen at a Sydney business on April 15th, and her car was seen driving the morning of April 16th. 5 years later, and police no longer consider Hutchinson a missing persons case and instead have declared her disappearance a homicide. But today, we're releasing very few details on what led to this decision and refused an interview.
Can you talk about that and what it felt like when you learned that news? I assume you thought this the whole time anyway,
Well, we all did. Everyone did. It was not a secret around town. Everyone was like, how can they say no foul play? Her car was burned. Like, you don't kill yourself and burn your car. You don't burn your car and kill yourself. And if you do, there's a body.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not what happens. But it was like December 2022 that I got a call from AJ McIsaac, who's a wonderful cop. And he was in kind of, I think, the Department of like forensic computer stuff. I'm not saying that right.
Yeah.
But they had Mom's iPad for 5 years, and he was like, let me see what I can do here. And he got into it, like the first time he tried. And it's like, if these cops they literally gathered us as a family and told us that it was bungled. It wasn't handled correctly. And if they had been on the case, it would be solved. And I see it happening now. People go missing and they get found. Like, the old guard was not.
Yeah. I understand what you're getting at. You mentioned there someone doesn't kill themselves and burn their car. I think you're referencing specifically like some people had spoke about and speculated that your mom's disappearance may be related to self-harm. And something that I seen appear in some of the early news reports on her case is statements that she maybe had some bad health news or got specifically a cancer diagnosis prior to her disappearance.
So
Do you know
not so like I'm at my friend's place now. She's my lawyer. She's dealing with the case. That's not in any of the files. So if she had one, it wasn't documented yet.
Mm-hmm.
I told you earlier, I also got a colonoscopy this year and was convinced I had terminal cancer. And I am my mother's daughter. I don't know. Colon cancer runs in the family. But like, it's not documented anywhere. I've heard about it, but there's no documentation anywhere.
And there could be a few reasons for that. One is there's privacy and stuff with medical information. So maybe it's.
No, but like, you have to give that information to the insurance companies. Like, we had her declared deceased in 2023, 4 maybe. And like, you need medical records for that.
Okay. So
you need all the evidence.
Could it possibly have been just something she thought or assumed or a delusional thought even or?
I mean, it's possible, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities either. Like,
yeah,
we're all blessed with a bad gut.
Yeah, I understand. But like yourself, having thought about this case as much as you have, do you give any credibility to theories that this may have been an act of self-harm, or is that something your mind doesn't go there?
No, not at all. My mother used to tell my brother and I that she was going to kill herself because of us all the time. But like, she wouldn't, that's not how she would have done it.
It just wouldn't make sense to like burn your car and not
doesn't
be
make
found.
sense. You'd find a body. Exactly. There'd be a body.
In the Collette Heights area where this happens, this wooded area, it's not endless. It's kind of like surrounded by highway and neighborhoods and stuff. So the searching that was done there, if there was evidence or a human remains there, I feel like it's very unlikely that it wouldn't have been found, which would lead me to think whatever happened didn't happen in the house and didn't happen in the area the car was found.
But I mean, it had to have happened in the car. There's no reason you'd burn the car, right? Like, it had to have happened in the car. Because I remember standing I couldn't be a passenger in a car for 7 years because I remember standing, I don't know if you've ever stood between the four wheels of a vehicle that's been burnt out, but they were left on the ground. And me and my friend's mom went up there to see it. And I stood there and like couldn't, I, I can't explain the feeling that I had. Like I know that it happened in the car. It had to.
Do you know of there ever being like suspects or anyone publicly pointed at, other than, again, I've seen speculation that it could have been a self-harm thing. We've talked about that. But what other kind of theories or suspects have you seen being talked about?
It was my dad at first, unfortunately. He was ruled out pretty quick. And then it was my brother, also ruled out very quickly. And she cooked for a family, like an elderly couple in the pier in Sydney. I don't know if the listeners will understand the pier, but there was talk about she had a partner in that family for a bit. They weren't together very long, it doesn't sound like. But like my mom was the type to not. Mom always said what was on her mind.
Mhm.
She didn't really have a filter, and I'm the same. But apparently there was someone in that family who she had a problem with, and apparently that person's been analyzed, and it's a non sequitur. It's
But I guess what you're getting at is, due to her personality, it wouldn't be uncommon for her to have conflict with people, but there
not at all. No.
was no one who really stood out. Now, you mentioned your dad. Now, and that's why earlier in our talk I leaned on the fact that the separation and the custody dispute and whatnot between your dad and your mom, that happens very long before her disappearance. But people are going to consider him.
Yeah.
You grew up and this all happened in a small town, so that must be really unusual. Talk a bit about what you know about the suspicion being directed towards your dad and just how you manage that.
I think it's more about how he manages it. Like, it's
Mhm.
he was polygraphed, he was analyzed, he had all this. I was like, the first time I went out after finding out my mom went missing, I was at the Black Diamond in Sydney, and I ran into a friend, like I wouldn't call him a friend, but like a close acquaintance, I guess. And he said, "I'm sorry to hear about your mom." I was like, "How did you know?" And he's like, "Well, I heard about it at Master Meats today." And I was like, "What'd you hear?" And he said that the ex-husband did it. And I'm racking my brain, being like, who's her ex-husband? Because it had been so long since they were married. It didn't even occur to me that,
Mhm. And then it hits
yeah.
you. What is like again? It's a small town there that you're in. What has it been like? Having people say stuff like that to you, because you must get it, either people looking at you or odd, or just people bringing it up. Like I can't imagine how that must be.
Like, I played a gig, a fundraiser for CB Mike again. And I was opening for JP Cormier, and this man just came up and gave me a letter that he wrote, poems about my mom. And I got I got a 5-page letter in September from a random person I don't know, detailing how she thinks that my mother's case is connected to some other cases. And yeah, it's really shitty not ever knowing when it's gonna happen. Like, I've been off work. I had a mental breakdown in January because I couldn't handle another year of this. The thought of it being 10 years. We're going
Yeah.
into the 10th year. It's
And you don't know when it's going to be brought up or when someone's going to, approach you and pass you a letter saying they know what happened. I imagine you've gotten
yeah.
lots of that, especially like in the last year or two. Really, you've become more closely associated with this case, so you're probably getting more of it now. But talk a bit about about the people who are coming to you with, theories or psychics and this sort of thing? Because I'm sure that's something that happens to you a lot.
Yeah, it happens a lot. There was one lady, so my mom's twin, they're fraternal twins, they don't look like. She and her husband were buying a freezer from a couple on Facebook Marketplace, and they got there, and the husband of this woman said, "Is your wife in the car? My wife wants to talk to her." And took us through, said she's a psychic, knows exactly where she is, took us through a walk through Collette Heights, and literally said, "This is like a game to me, eh?" Like, I don't, I can't fathom people's desire to be involved, because I would do anything not to have this on my plate. Like, I would trade it in a heartbeat. If you want to be part of a homicide investigation, have at her by. Like, I wish I could switch.
Yeah. Mhm. But it is something that, like, especially in your mom's case, as time goes on, it's unsolved and it's high profile there. It becomes a part of kind of the social conversation. But for other people, it's a mystery. For you, it's like a nightmare that you've been trapped in, and it's a nightmare on top of like this traumatic
nightmare.
upbringing.
Yeah, because this is why I'm talking about it. And I feel when people hear it's your mom, they think like it's your mom, like your rock, you're like what a typical mother is. And I didn't have one of those, and I don't like talking about it in public because it feels like I'm lying. Because she kind of wasn't my mom. Like, she gave birth to me, she raised me, but like it had been so many years since I'd even seen her. She really damaged me, and was very damaged herself. So I don't know. That's
When all of this happened with your mom, I didn't know the connection. Like, I knew who you were and I knew about your mom's story, but I didn't realize the connection. In the immediate years after your mother's disappearance, you weren't publicly connected to the case. Is there a reason why you're more willing to talk about it now than back then, or is it just time heals, or why now?
there's a family member who passed away who didn't think I was entitled to the grief or the feelings, and I also struggle with that myself internally, but it was declared on no uncertain terms that I was not to be involved and or around, even. Like, when I had to pick up the key to my mom's house, one of my aunts called me and said, "Don't pull in the driveway. Like, I'll meet you. If you pull in this driveway, it's not going to be good." And I love her, and I think she's a wonderful person. She just knew her husband. Um, so yeah, that's why. And now there's only two siblings left out of my mom's family, and one of them has cerebral palsy and lives in a manor. So it's just me and Darlene, essentially. And yeah, at a 7, they're all gone. And it's the, I remember the first anniversary. Somebody brought up that Easter was coming up, and I was like, holy fuck, it's been a year. And the second year was the hardest. And now, like, 9 going into 10 is actively destroying me. I'm not well. Like, this is why.
Is a part of it, do you think, like, as people, as time goes on, or like, are you fearing less attention to her case
Yeah, big time.
and is that a part of your motivation to get out there and tell the story?
Because I can't live like this. I need to know. Like, my birthday's on Mother's Day. Like, I don't know. It's I need resolution. Our family needs resolution. Like, this is, it's hard to believe it's been 9 years.
And it really is, and from the public's point of view, it seems like the only major call out for information from the police has been there's a series of vehicles that were filmed coming and going, or that were filmed in the area of Collette Heights the morning that that your mom's car was found burned. They've released photos of these vehicles, and I'm going to have links to them in this episode description for people who are interested and who could take a look.
Cape Breton Regional Police are now looking to speak to the drivers of these vehicles seen traveling on Collette Heights Drive at the same time as Hutchinson's vehicle.
Why do you think the police think these are so important?
The vehicle was burned, like you said, it was reported at 10:30-ish. Like, somebody had to drive in and then get out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, though the driver of one of those vehicles is likely the culprit.
Mm-hmm.
That's
or picking up the culprit, I guess, because where your mom's
involved, like accessory to a murder.
Yeah, where your mom's vehicle was found is an area that if you dropped off a car there and burned it or whatever, to walk out of there is, for one, it's a good walk, but you'd either be walking to the highway or walking through a residential area. So somebody probably had to pick up this person. So I guess that's a part of the reason these vehicles are so crucial.
Like, it had to be a two-person job. That's my theory.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody did it and then called somebody, and it didn't actually occur to me until we talked, until you said that it didn't occur to me that the car was just like burnt in the morning, like in broad daylight.
And that's like, the timeline is so tight because the two on the ATV who showed up there, they were likely within an hour of seeing the person actually set fire.
They would have had to be, yeah.
You know, for people listening who know the basics of your mom's story, or maybe read some of these articles that I've referenced that have been in the news over the years, what is it you want people to know about your mom and her case, and why should they get involved?
It's because she deserves justice, and nobody deserves murder and not a proper resting place. There's clearly somebody out there who's done this. They need to be brought to justice. Our family has no idea how or when to grieve. There's been no funeral. There's no grave. It's hell on earth. And I'm just begging anybody out there with any information to come forward with any information, because it's two remaining aunts on my mom's side deserve answers. And like, I can't live with this for the rest of my life. I don't know how I'm going to do it. It blows my mind. And people hold dualities. People are complicated. People can be one way in one situation and one way in another. And this interview is me starting to address that, I guess.
I want to thank you for joining Collette and I for this discussion. As Collette described, it's a very complicated story with so many troubling elements. But at the end of it all, a major step towards healing is answers and justice for Deb Hutchinson. If anyone out there has any information that may help investigators, do the right thing and contact police. As well, if anyone close to this story is interested in speaking to me, you can contact me at thecanadiangothic.com/contact. I'd love to hear from you. And with that said, I'm going to wrap up this episode, but before we part, let me give out some thanks. First, a big thanks to Collette for sharing her story with me and with you, the listeners of the Canadian Gothic. I want to thank Monty Datta, who contributes the music for this show, and Linz from Dystopian Simulation, who provides our intro and outro voiceovers. And then lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. Now, on the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed, Nikki, Maya, and Jennifer. We appreciate you. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can do it in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple bucks a month, and that money will fund the creation of new episodes, but the premium feed will also give you those episodes 2 days early, give them to you ad-free, and give you access to a back catalog which contains many more episodes. That sounds like something you're interested in? You can go premium at thecanadiangothic.com/subscribe. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know you listen. Your support is very much appreciated. With all that said, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird.
Thank you for listening to Canadian Gothic.